Hi there, and welcome to Oaklandside 510. I'm Tasneem Raja, editor-in-chief of the Oaklandside, Oakland's independent, nonprofit newsroom. In today's episode, last week, federal agents arrived in the East Bay for what was expected to be a major immigration and law enforcement operation. While President Trump has called it off for now, we think the play-by-play is important, especially because of what it reveals about how Oakland and the East Bay mobilized. I'm going to walk you through everything that happened day by day, sometimes even hour by hour. I'll give you a sense of where things stand now, and I'll help you understand what we should all take away from this experience. After that, I'll catch you up on other recent reporting from the Oakland side, including developments in Oakland's ongoing debates over police oversight, some actually good news from Oakland schools, and a longtime Lakeshore institution that's closing its doors. Let's get into it. All right, let's start at the beginning. Early last Wednesday morning, rumors started circulating on social media about federal agents heading to the Bay Area. As we were reporting out the story, the San Francisco Chronicle confirmed it. We learned that Customs and Border Protection was deploying dozens of federal agents to Coast Guard Island. That's a 67-acre federal base in the Oakland estuary. It's connected to the mainland by a single road. The Coast Guard confirmed to us Wednesday that they would be providing the base as a staging ground for what they called an operation. This wasn't just speculation anymore. Oakland Unified School District sent a message to families saying they'd received official reports that ICE planned to step up activity in the Bay Area as soon as that Saturday, October 25th. The district reassured parents that students would be safe at school and that staff were instructed not to let immigration agents enter campus without a judge-signed warrant. The worry was immediate and widespread. Oakland and East Bay residents have been watching what's been happening in cities like Chicago and Los Angeles, where similar federal deployments have led to confrontations between protesters and agents, with tear gas, violence, and National Guard troops deployed. Okay, Thursday morning, agents arrive, protesters respond. Around 7:20 on Thursday, Oaklandside journalists saw a convoy of Custom and Border Protection vehicles arriving at the entrance to Coast Guard Island. And they weren't alone. Hundreds of people had already gathered at the lone entrance to the base for a faith vigil. There were vigils, marches, press conferences, and demonstrations planned throughout the day. Things got tense quickly. Federal officers used 2 flashbang grenades to push back the crowd so that a convoy of CBP vehicles could get through. At least 2 protesters were injured. One had his foot run over by an SUV, and a Customs and Border Patrol agent shot a pastor in the face with a chemical weapon. Let me say that again. A federal agent shot a pastor in the face at point-blank range with a chemical weapon. Here's what we know about that violent incident. Pastor Jorge Bautista came to the protest from the South Bay, where he's a pastor with the United Church of Christ congregation. He was standing with other clergy at the entrance to Coast Guard Island as part of a vigil organized by the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity. That's a statewide organization that links clergy and people of faith to social justice movements. Photos we published show that Bautista appears to have been standing on city property, on the Oakland side of the blue line that marks federal land. An agent wearing camouflage, a ballistic vest, and a CBP badge crossed that blue line, stepped toward the pastor, raised a weapon that fires chemical irritants, and shot him in the face from about 5 feet away. Bautista couldn't breathe. His chin was lacerated. The caustic powder coated his face and entered his mouth. Other protesters rushed him to the hospital. The shooting raises questions that communities across the country are grappling with right now. Was this use of force justified? And if it wasn't, if this was assault, who has the power to hold a federal agent accountable? We've got a story on our site exploring this question. It's only going to become more pressing as more of these kinds of federal operations take place across the country. Okay, back to our timeline. Remember, we're still on Thursday morning. Our NOSH editor, Tovin Lappin, headed over to Fruitvale, one of Oakland's neighborhoods with the highest concentration of immigrants. He knew there was a farmer's market on that day, and you would expect a lot of people out and about on a normal Thursday. That day, he reported, the district looked festive. Colorful papel picado banners reading Amistad, Paz, and Amor hung in preparation for Dia de los Muertos. But for the hours he was reporting through the morning and afternoon, the streets were eerily quiet. Sandra Cruz, who runs the Chalateco pupusa stand, opened at 5 a.m. as usual, but her regular customers never came. In Spanish, she told Toven, "I think we're down 70%. There's a lot of fear in the community. We heard that Saturday will be the day for raids, and people are saying, don't go out, stay home." At Fruitvale Village, where a farmer's market sets up every Thursday, only about half the usual vendors showed up. Karen, owner of Titi Pupusas, stood at her stall surrounded by empty cafe tables. She said business is down 50%. She said usually there's a line of people. Today there was no one. The only rush came around noon when students from Arise High School descended on the village for lunch. After that, it cleared out again. Vendors selling cell phone plans and hats paced back and forth or sat scrolling on their phones with no one to serve. A sign saying "Ice out of Oakland" hung in a quinceañera dress shop window. Red Bay Coffee's headquarters displayed a banner reading "Filter Café no vidas." Filter coffee, not lives. The fear was keeping kids out of school too. Our education reporter Ashley McBride has reported that Oakland school district leaders saw absences spike dramatically among immigrant students last Thursday. Among other stark statistics in her story, she says, at Oakland International High School, a small high school that serves new immigrants, only 67% of students showed up on Thursday. That's 11 percentage points lower than the school's average attendance this year. It's also worth noting that the funding Oakland schools receive for immigrant students is tied to attendance and enrollment. So even temporary drops can lead to future reductions in revenue. Then something big happens around 10 a.m. on Thursday. President Trump announces on Truth Social, the social media company his family owns, that he was calling off the federal surge in San Francisco. According to his post, friends of his had called Wednesday night asking him not to go forward. Trump said he spoke with San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie, who asked him to hold off. Trump also mentioned that tech executives, including Jensen Huang and Mark Benioff, had called saying, quote, "The future of San Francisco is great." But Trump's announcement only mentioned San Francisco. What about Oakland? What about the rest of the East Bay? At that point, no one knew. On Thursday afternoon, Oakland officials respond. Mayor Barbara Lee held a press conference at City Hall. She was candid. Quote, "I have no information we can bring to you today about the federal administration's plans." She did emphasize that Oakland remains a sanctuary city and that the city is prepared. Oakland police cannot ask about immigration status or assist in civil immigration enforcement under city law. The district attorney of Alameda County, Ursula Jones Dixon, said her office won't provide immigration information to the federal government or coordinate with ICE. At the same time, officials cautioned protesters not to, quote, "take the bait" by committing acts of violence. Jones Dixon said it plainly, quote, "We know that they're baiting Oakland, and that's why San Francisco is suddenly off the table. So I'm not going to be quiet about what we know is coming. We know that their expectation is that Oakland is going to do something to cause them to make us the example," end quote. On Thursday night, a shooting at Coast Guard Island. Even though Trump appeared to have called off the operation, protests continued at the entrance to Coast Guard Island, including a march that arrived there in the evening from Fruitvale Plaza. At around 10 p.m. on Thursday night, law enforcement stationed at the entrance opened fire on a vehicle that had approached the entrance with live ammunition. According to the Coast Guard, security personnel observed a vehicle driving erratically and attempting to back onto the bridge. They issued multiple verbal commands to stop, but the driver failed to comply and proceeded to put the vehicle in reverse. When the vehicle's actions posed what they described as, quote, "a direct threat to the safety of Coast Guard and security personnel," law enforcement officers shot at the truck. Videos of the shooting showed a U-Haul rental van accelerating backward towards several law enforcement officers who then opened fire with rifles. The FBI later confirmed that 2 individuals were injured in the incident, both with non-life-threatening injuries, and it has confirmed that the agency is investigating the incident. The Department of Homeland Security said the truck driver was wounded in the stomach and was being held for mental health evaluation. Okay, on Friday, the East Bay operation appears to be canceled for now. By Friday, the Alameda County Sheriff's Office confirms that the federal government's planned surge operation wouldn't happen in Oakland or the rest of the county at this time. Those last two words matter. At this time. So what does this all mean? For many Oakland residents, especially immigrant families, this has all been terrifying. Some people didn't go to work. Some kept their kids home from school. Some didn't go shopping. Oakland first declared itself a sanctuary city in 1986 and adopted an official sanctuary ordinance in 2019. But as District Attorney Jones Dixon pointed out, local officials can't stand in the way of a legal federal warrant. Oakland police have no authority to oppose or prevent federal authorities from conducting immigration operations. And immigration enforcement was already happening in the East Bay before news of Trump's surge operation broke. Every indication is that these routine ICE operations will continue. So what happens next? We don't know. What we do know is that the community showed up. Hundreds of people at protests, faith vigils, and rallies. Elected officials made their positions clear. But as I said, those words, at this time, are doing a lot of work. This story is not over. The Oaklandside has been covering every angle of this. We've had reporters at the protests, at City Hall, at Coast Guard Island, and we're staying in close touch with community organizations and elected officials. You can find all of our reporting at oaklandside.org, and we'll keep you updated as this situation develops. All right, let's get into some other recent reporting from our newsroom. There's more in the full stories, which we'll link to in the show notes, and you can always find at oaklandside.org. Let's start with City Hall news. Former at-large council member Rebecca Kaplan is back at Oakland City Hall, but this time as a staffer, not an elected official. Kaplan served nearly 2 decades on the council before her term ended in January. Now, just 5 months later, the city has hired her as a project manager in the city administrator's office. Her focus is illegal dumping and blight. During her time on council, Kaplan was known for her work on transit, affordable housing, and LGBTQ issues. She helped create the Lakeshore LGBTQ Cultural District and pushed the city to issue bonds for affordable housing. But Kaplan's record is complicated. She supported the controversial proposal to link the Coliseum sale to the city's budget, a move that at least one financial advisor warned could end in catastrophe. The city says Kaplan will focus on developing policy solutions to help clean up Oakland's streets, a stated priority of Mayor Barbara Lee, who just announced increased weekend crews for illegal dumping cleanup. Okay, speaking of former Oakland officials, a state judge has thrown out the remainder of former police chief Laron Armstrong's whistleblower lawsuit against the city. Armstrong sued Oakland last year, claiming he was fired in retaliation for speaking out against Robert Warshaw, the federal monitor who oversees OPD. He accused Warshaw of manufacturing a crisis to extend his paid role and accused city leaders, including Sheng Tao, of violating his free speech rights and labor laws. But a judge ruled last week that Armstrong's claims don't meet the legal standards for whistleblower violations. This comes after a federal judge dismissed Armstrong's First Amendment claims last year. Okay, on to the next. We reported another recent story that's linked to tensions over police oversight in Oakland. The city council unanimously rejected the reappointments of 2 Oakland Police Commission members on Tuesday night. The Police Commission was created in 2016 by voters. It's a volunteer board of Oakland residents who oversee the police department and a civilian agency that investigates police misconduct. Last week's meeting got heated. 39 people signed up for public comment. Some blamed the commission for crime in Oakland and said commissioners have too much power without accountability. One woman who lost her son to gun violence in 2018 said, quote, "There is a problem, not just with oversight and the commission. There's a problem with this whole process. Our children deserve justice." On the other side, police reform advocates warned that this vote undermines progress and sends a terrible message. Councilmember Carol Fife, speaking from Italy on Instagram Live, said, quote, "Holding people accountable for the work they're supposed to do to keep our communities safe is not what's creating crime, and it is not anti-police." The decision came just 2 weeks after Police Chief Floyd Mitchell resigned, and some have speculated that Mitchell's frustrations with the Civilian Oversight Board contributed to his departure. Okay, in school news, the Oakland School Board has chosen a firm to lead the search for a permanent superintendent. The board has voted to negotiate a contract for up to $150,000 with a firm called Hazard, Young, Attia, and Associates. One thing to watch for, the firm says they're going to be looking for leaders who've, quote, demonstrated a capacity, aptitude, and ability to drive systemic change in school systems that are challenged fiscally, in school systems where there's a high level of chronic absenteeism. In other words, someone who can handle Oakland's very specific set of problems. This search follows the controversial early departure of former Superintendent Kyla Johnson-Trammell. In April, the board voted to end her contract early. This move confused the public, and tensions around her departure still linger. School Board Director Mike Hutchinson abstained from the vote. He's made his disapproval of the superintendent search process very clear, and he disagrees with his colleagues about Johnson-Trammell's ouster. Interim Superintendent Denise Sadler is currently in the role, and she'll stay through June of 2026. Okay, some more school news. Enrollment in OUSD is up for the first time in 8 years. This year's Census Day count, that's the official October snapshot that's used for state funding, came in at around 34,000 students. That's almost 700 more than the district projected and about 300 more than last year's official count. More students could mean several million more dollars in funding for the district. And it suggests that OUSD's strategies to stabilize and boost enrollment may actually be working. Since 2021, the district has invested at least $5 million to improve enrollment office staffing and to market Oakland public schools. The district also made the enrollment process easier for families who aren't English-speaking, middle class, or tech-savvy. And the expansion of transitional kindergarten, or TK, has added 1,200 new students, while introducing families to elementary schools they may not have otherwise considered. Still, there are challenges ahead. The district has seen fewer immigrant students enrolling this year, likely due to the Trump administration's intensified immigration enforcement. OUSD is also reaching capacity for those TK facilities. And the enrollment office had its budget slashed last year. Future funding is uncertain. Some more good news, this time in East Oakland. Construction has officially begun on the Young People's Wellness Center, a new health facility exclusively for 13 to 26-year-olds. It's going to be located at 86th Avenue and International Boulevard, right across from Allen Temple Baptist Church and the Boys and Girls Club. And it's a project of Roots Community Health. It's expected to open next year. The center will offer physical and mental health services, sexual and reproductive health care, and substance use treatment, all confidential. It's designed to be way more than a clinic, actually. Plans also include a cafe and a makerspace. This is where young people can work on creative projects. There'll be a pop-up barber and salon services. And this is crucial. On Friday and Saturday nights, the center's going to stay open until 10 p.m. This is all part of the larger Rise East initiative, a $100 million plan to revitalize a 40 by 40 block area of East Oakland by investing in health, education, workforce, safety, and housing. Sorry to end on a bummer note, but we do have some sad food news to share with you. Oakland is losing a longtime Lakeshore institution. Top Dog, the Bay Area's classic spot for hot links, frankfurters, and chicken apple sausages, is closing its Oakland location. When it closes, only the original Berkeley location up on Durant Avenue will remain. So here's what happens. The owners initially decided not to renew their lease after a string of robberies and financial uncertainty. But then business picked back up and they decided to stay after all. But then a new owner bought the building and Top Dog wasn't offered a new lease. So now the closure is happening whether they wanted to or not. The Lakeshore location has been there since 2011, 14 years. There's no set closing date yet, but if you want one last Top Dog experience in Oakland, head over to Lakeshore Avenue while you still can. Get the hot link with everything on it. All right, that is this week's episode of Oaklandside 510. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Share it with your Oakland friends and neighbors. The more people listening, the more we can keep this show going. This episode was produced by Callie Rhodes, edited by Darwin Bongram and Esther Kaplan, and hosted by me, Oaklandside Editor-in-Chief Tasneem Raja. And by the way, this is bittersweet. This is our last episode being produced by Callie Rhodes. I hope to share some great news about what she's up to next with you soon. On behalf of our entire newsroom, thank you for showing up for Oakland. We'll see you next week.